ये फास्ट फॉरवर्ड लाइफ छोड़ करके एक ऐसी लाइफ आप अपना रहे हैं जो एक बैकवर्ड है.
By the time, when I was 17, 18, I left the house.
स्पिरिचुअलिटी जैसा कुछ है अमेरिका में.
People are now taking that step backwards.
तो इंडिया में उल्टा देखने को मिल रहा है.
हाँ.
छोड़ दी आपने जॉब?
छोड़ दी.
क्या सैलरी थी लास्ट में?
10 lakh rupees per month. Life took a really bad turn and I was very getting close to suicide also. Why are you alive? What I really want to achieve, I can only find it in Sanyam, in Diksha.
इंडिया से जब कोई व्यक्ति अमेरिका जाता है तब उसके प्रति लोगों का माइंडसेट ऐसा रहता है कि वो लाइफ में सक्सेसफुल बना है, उसने अपना लाइफ बहुत ही अच्छी तरीके से ट्रांसफॉर्म किया है, कहीं ना कहीं लाइफ अपग्रेड हुई है, ऐसी हमारी मानसिकता और मान्यता होती है. आज हम एक ऐसे व्यक्ति से आपको मिलवाने वाले हैं जिसने यू टर्न लिया है, यानी कि जिसका जन्म भारत में हुआ लेकिन वो व्यक्ति अमेरिका शिफ्ट हुआ, अमेरिका में उनकी पढ़ाई वगैरह हुई, उसके बाद उन्होंने वहाँ पर जॉब किया और बहुत ही अच्छी लाइफस्टाइल में वो जी रहे थे. लेकिन ऐसा क्या हुआ कि 30 साल 31 साल की उम्र में उन्होंने एक बहुत बड़ा यू टर्न लिया, वो भारत आए और अब दीक्षा लेने वाले हैं. तो आइए आपको मिलवाते हैं ऋषि भाई झवेरी से. ऋषि भाई प्रणाम. पहले तो बहुत स्वागत है आपका जैन मीडिया के प्लेटफॉर्म पर. बहुत खुशी हो रही है आपसे मिलकर. तो आपकी लाइफ कहाँ से स्टार्ट हुई?
Yeah, Pranam Mehul Bhai. Thank you for having me. It was I think not expected that I will ever be on Jain Media in my life. Even I have watched your videos for 4 years.
Yeah.
I was born in Thane. When I was 2.5, I moved to the US, Michigan, and I lived there for almost now 27, 28 years. I studied all the way, to 12th grade, and then I did university. At the University of Michigan, I studied both my masters, bachelor's and masters in computer science, and I was working also full-time afterwards for 6 years at Salesforce, which is a tech company which is based out of San Francisco, and I was working both in Indianapolis as well as then after COVID, I started working from home. And yes, through those years, for the last 11 years, I was also introduced with my Guruji, and just I think spending time with him every summer, I would come during vacations and living with him, seeing his life, learning from him. I think that made a great impact on me, and yeah, at some point it just clicked in my mind that this is the path that I want to take. That no matter whatever I have in the US. Or wherever I can achieve anything, anywhere, from based on my background. But what I really want to achieve, I can only find it in Sanyam, in Diksha. And so I just made that decision. And it's been now almost a year and a half.
अमेरिका की लाइफ है ना ऋषि भाई, वो हमारे दिमाग में ऐसी छाप है कि अमेरिका की लाइफ बहुत ही फास्ट फॉरवर्ड लाइफ है, और एक बहुत बड़ा वर्ग है जो ऐसा सोचता है कि इंडिया की जो लाइफ है वो बहुत ही बैकवर्ड लाइफ है, ऑर्थोडॉक्स लाइफ है. इस मान्यता के अनुसार भी अगर हम सोचें तो आप ये फास्ट फॉरवर्ड लाइफ छोड़ करके एक ऐसी लाइफ आप अपना रहे हैं जो एक बैकवर्ड है उस मान्यता के अनुसार. तो इसके लिए आप रेडी कैसे हुए?
So, you're right. From one perspective, yes, America life, Western life culture is very fast moving, fast forward, you think very modern. Whereas people have the thought that Indian life or Eastern lifestyle is very backwards or slower. But even today now, if you see, in India, now everyone wants to move fast, right? If you go to Mumbai, Delhi, it seems like you're living in the US actually, in some places. And if you go to the US, you'll see people are now realizing that this life is not sustainable. It's not something that they can continue. Maybe parents were able to do it, but the life that it's created, the kind of lifestyle that it has created now is so unsustainable that, people are now taking that step backwards. So while India is, we're thinking it's taking a step forward, Americans, right, are now trying to adopt the same values, same principles that we've had already for so many, thousands of years here. One example, मैं बोलूँगा, you see, so we have the culture that even after studies, children stay at home. घर पे रह के वो काम करते हैं जो भी करते हैं, they stay with parents. After COVID, that started happening in the US also. First, it was a financial decision for many because, it became very expensive to live alone. But now many even found the benefit. Okay, I'm living with my parents, I'm living in a family, so we can support each other. We can, that family bonding, which they never had experienced in their life. By the time, when I was 17, 18, I left the house. I was out of the house. That was it. I was not expected to ever live again with my parents.
तो इसके पीछे का कारण क्या है? What is the reason behind all this?
So I think the American lifestyle is what we would call individualistic, right? So it's all about the individual, right? And whereas our life, India growing up, is more communal, societal. So the focus is more on the community, on the family, than on the person. And in the US, it's more about the person. So as a person, I do what I want to do. And so obviously for that, I have to be independent by myself. Then only I can, and so that has its benefits. Always people have, a little bit space to explore also what they like. But the backside is when they are in trouble, when you're alone, when there's no one else there for you. And in India, it's the opposite, right? So there's always somebody for you. You're never alone. You don't feel that loneliness.
एग्जैक्टली कुछ डेटा रिपोर्ट्स में मैंने देखा था कि जिस लाइफस्टाइल को हम बहुत ज़्यादा फास्ट फॉरवर्ड मान रहे हैं, वी थिंक इट इज़ fast forward lifestyle, but somewhere depression rate is higher on that side. Is that true?
Absolutely.
Is it because of this individualistic lifestyle?
I can definitely parts of it. Yes, 100%. Right. Individual, you are alone. Right. Yes, you might have friends. You have that, but each friend is also on them by themselves. You don't live even as a friend group. Now let's see, even if 5-10 friends were living their life together, then that's still okay. But I'm living in one apartment. My friend is still living in the next door apartment. Even then, we are not constantly connected. So something happens. There's so many instances, right? Somebody gets hurt, somebody falls down, somebody passes away even in their apartment. Even the people next door don't realize for 5 days, 10 days, 1 month.
My God.
Right? And so you do feel that disconnect. And I think the second reason, actually, we might say that it's becoming depression is also, and this is also the rise of social media and the concept of instant gratification. Where we say we get happiness at the click of a button. We want things right now, right? So everything has to look good, everything has to feel good right at this moment. Nothing, no long term, no long vision.
So you said people there are stepping backward now, right? तो मतलब कहीं ना कहीं they are adopting Indian culture. Am I right?
Yes, absolutely.
And Indians are adopting American culture.
Yes, I've seen that.
मैं ऐसा देख रहा हूँ, कई लोग अभी मम्मी पापा से ना शादी के बाद अलग रहना शुरू कर देते हैं. आपकी बात जो है वो एक एंगल से मुझे सही भी लगी कि एक्सप्लोर करने के लिए बहुत कुछ मिलता है, लेकिन ये खटक अंदर रहती है कि वो एक्सप्लोर करना राइट वे में है या रॉन्ग वे में है. वो बताने वाला जब हमारे साथ नहीं होगा तो फिर थोड़ी गड़बड़ के चांसेस है. और लाइफ तो इतनी कीमती है कि एक्सप्लोर करने के चक्कर में कोई इतना बड़ा रिस्क हम ना ले ले कि लाइफ ही हाथ से निकल जाए और फिर रिग्रेट रह जाए कि ये मुझे नहीं करना चाहिए था. तो इसके प्रोज और कॉन्स दोनों.
हाँ, एब्सोल्युटली. आई एग्री. आई थिंक exploration, what I think maybe has to change, or what we might focus. And actually I really like Ratnasundar Suri Maya Sahib also in his pravachans also mentioned this a lot, is even parents also have to understand that they have to give space also to their children to learn to grow, right? And so there should be a culture in the home also where parents are giving that enough freedom but are still there to provide the guidance, provide the wisdom, right? And so it should be that the children, or the youth in the family don't feel that they're being suffocated, but at the same time, right, they still have a protection. They have still somebody to tell them where they might be going wrong, someone to guide them in the right direction.
तो गाइडेंस के साथ एक्सप्लोरिंग का जो कॉन्सेप्ट है वो सही बैठेगा.
हाँ, right. I mean, we have a car, right? But even cars have checks and balances, right? Nowadays, if your car goes over 150 kilometers, 120 kilometers per hour, it starts to beep, right? So you have full rights on your car to drive however you want, right? But that doesn't mean that you can do it, right? It's still, there is still something there to guide you, to teach you, okay, don't do this because this is dangerous, right? So there's always that, we've always had that balance in all other things, right? So why not in a family life?
Is there something called spirituality in America? क्योंकि ये mindset है कि अमेरिका में सिर्फ काम, पैसा, अच्छी लाइफस्टाइल, मतलब ये जो हम बोलते हैं ना मटेरियलिस्टिक लाइफस्टाइल, वो है. स्पिरिचुअलिटी जैसा कुछ है अमेरिका में? आपने अपनी लाइफ में कुछ अनुभव किया है?
So I think it also depends how do we define spirituality. I don't think that America has the same level of spirituality that we have in India, or that we might see, in our Jain Dharma also. What they do have, I think, is the realization that they need to now take a step back and reevaluate why they do the things that they are doing. Right? What is the reason behind each of their actions? And what is the end result of those actions? Right? So yes, people, we have the culture of drinking, partying, all these things. In college, you do that. But now people are also realizing, and the excuse, or the reason they give is, it's to build a social life, to have fun. But then people are now realizing that it's not necessary to do all those things. I never did it in college, and still yet, I've had, just as amazing as a college experience as anybody else. But the reasoning for me was actually a little bit different. It was more personal thing. It was not actually a religious thing in the start. But partying and all those things, I did. And so I think people are realizing that we don't need all these things, right? And the future and the result of all these things, is always pain, right? You make bad decisions, then you get into trouble, or over, health decisions, or just, now they're so used to this kind of lifestyle that when now they work, now they have a family, now they cannot do all these things. Now what, right? And so now they're realizing that these things aren't that important. And so there is a big, actually, I would say, people are now becoming more sober in the US, right? Whereas where I've seen, and where I've been in India, I think that culture is actually starting to grow.
तो इंडिया में उल्टा देखने को मिल रहा है.
हाँ, मुझको ऐसा लग रहा है. Maybe I've not seen all of India, and everybody's experience might be different, but that is my experience.
From religious perspective, what do Americans think about Indians?
So, because America has a culture of kind of keeping religion out of, everyday life, they don't really care, in the sense that, if you say you are so-and-so religion, they don't have any opinions or any, right? In India, actually, we kind of judge a person also sometimes by what religion they follow. Whether that's right or wrong, that's different. They don't have that kind of judgmental and, sort of tendencies. And at the same time, as long as you practicing your religion is not encroaching or harming someone else's life, right, or causing any nuisance to somebody else, they're more than happy to let them, practice. When it comes specifically to Jainism, and I think this is where we definitely when I was living in America, and I was, Jain Alert Group, we had started there. One of our goals, right, is to bring more awareness about Jainism to the general public, because I think still it's very unknown. And in everybody's mind, even in school when I was growing up, we would have Jainism was maybe 3 or 4 paragraphs in the Book of World Religions. And even in that, it was so, they would only focus on maybe one part of Jainism, or maybe just one sect of Jainism. That they would never really show the full history or the full aspect. And so people have no idea when it comes to what Jainism is.
अच्छा, why people want to move to America? ऐसा क्या है अमेरिका में कि लोग अमेरिका जाना चाहते हैं? और आपने तो अभी दोनों लाइफस्टाइल देख लिए, तो आपका अनुभव क्या है?
I think two things, right? First, I think is this money. Right? And I think second is what comes with money is the prestige. Right? Is maybe, यहाँ घर पे भी हम बोल सकते हैं, हाँ मेरा बेटा अमेरिका है, मेरी बेटी यहाँ है, ये पढ़ रही है, ये पढ़ा. And I think those are the two things that kind of force or like kind of convince somebody that they want to go to America. Majority. Some people come because their field of studies they cannot progress in India. It just doesn't have that thing. But for mostly, I think it's just money. And I think once they get there, they realize that that's not necessarily the right decision. But another reason that people stay, what that I have seen, right? Also, a big reason that even many of the families, like my parents and our elders who moved in the 60s and 70s, one of the big reasons they stay is because there is, you can say, a peace of mind, a little bit more calmness to how they live. And India is a little bit more chaotic. And so those who have gotten really used to that peaceful life, right? I think unless they were to move to a village somewhere in Rajasthan or Gujarat, they wouldn't find it, in a Mumbai or Ahmedabad. And so they that life is so comfortable that then they want to stay.
ऋषि भाई, अमेरिका की ऐसी कौन सी अच्छी बात है जो शायद हम अपना सकते हैं, जिनशासन के लिए अपना सकते हैं, पर्सनल लाइफ के लिए अपना सकते हैं? आपने अपना लगभग 90% लाइफ जो है अमेरिका में बिताया है, तो आपने वहाँ के भी सिद्धांत देखे होंगे, वहाँ के लोगों का जो व्यवहार है वो देखा होगा। तो किस तरह से वो जीते हैं और उनमें से क्या चीज़ें हमें अपनानी चाहिए, आपको क्या लगता है?
So I will actually talk just based on my experience. So everyone who lives in America will have, their version of America is different. Just like your version of India is different than the version of India of somebody who has grown up in a small town or a village.
True.
Right? So I'll speak kind of what I have at least gained from my life in America that I think I'm using even here in India currently. And I think maybe, in the broader perspective, it is something to learn. One thing that when I come to India is always there for me is, discipline, law and order. I think in India, like even, pali tana jate ho, right? Or with anything, if there is, a line, right? The line seems like it's just a suggestion. It's not a really rule that you just make something that looks like a people are in line, but there is no set of order in anything like that. And if you go to America, you ask anybody, right? If you're in line, you're in line. You cannot cut through the line, even if you have, I have an exception. यहाँ होते हैं ना कि ये तो हाँ मैं तो इसको पहचानता हूँ, इसका पे ये है वो है,
MLA चाचा है
हाँ
हमारे।
वो हाँ एग्जैक्टली वो है कि या ना मेरे को ये तकलीफ है वो तकलीफ है, मुझको आज आगे बढ़ने दो, मेरे आना है, जल्दी आना था, लगी लेट हो गया, अभी आने दो ना. All these things don't work, right? You came first, you get what you want first. It is very, very systematic. And I think that level of systematicness, I think, when it brings that order, and in my opinion, right, like let's say like Varshidan ka Varghora, when we have the big events, we do Varsidan, right? And now you see what happens now. People throw things, and now there's just a huge, people falling over each other and all these things. And we say, this is for prabhavna, right? Dharma prabhavna. We're trying to show. But I really question that answer, because I think instead of that, you see people are in line, people are they're not following each other, they're following orders, right? They are being very calm, collected, right? What do you think is going to have a bigger impact on people watching, right? Who are they going to what will they see, right? And I can talk about other communities even in India also who have that kind of order and who have are following that. And I know we all mention it when we talk with each other. We always say, like, oh, these people, they are this much orderly, they're so professional, right? Because those things really make an impact on those who are viewing. And so I think if we need to really reevaluate how do we even do certain things, and how do we bring order, and how do we change the culture of kind of bringing out, instead of that selfish kind of nature of I want it first, is how do we bring system. And then second thing that I on a more religious side, right, is we try not to always merge science and religion. We try to say, okay, they're two different things, they have different point or different purposes maybe, but at the same time, and I mean I came from a completely science background, right? I was an engineer. I grew up, and actually the reason that I even met my guru was because I wanted to argue with him from a science perspective, right? And so I didn't believe all these things, many things in Jainism, and so I really brought that kind of science, kind of cynicism to when I was talking with him. But one thing that I did learn maybe from that culture, right, is to question, but to question out of curiosity. So there's a difference in questioning out of curiosity and questioning just to confront, confrontational questioning just because it doesn't make sense to you, so you just want to prove somebody wrong. That's one thing. Or you ask questions and you show the curiosity and you keep that openness to accept the answer, even if it doesn't make sense, even if at the time you still keep the openness to explore. As new facts emerge, as you have new experiences, you're willing to change your perspective, and that's what worked for me. I think to bring me all the way here is I still think of myself as very science minded. I still think that I'm in a way a man of science, because I still keep I always question, but I don't question just to question. I question, and then I spend that time, I spend my efforts finding the answers and finding those those experiences which will help me bring closure, clarity to those questions. And I think many times here, especially now that we've many parts of our religion has become very more ritualistic, we stopped asking the why do I do this, why is this actually right, should I actually be doing this now, वो जो विवेक हम जो कहते हैं ना, that vivek I think we have, that is, I think vivek is really a scientific kind of line, right? At what point do you do when, in what context, right? That's a very logical sort of thing, but I think many places, in many instances, we've lost that, or we need to go back into that direction.
बहुत ही अच्छी तरीके से आपने, बहुत अच्छे शब्दों में आपने रियलिटी बताई है, ऐसा मैं कह सकता हूँ. हमने भी ऐसे वीडियोज़ ना पोस्ट किए जहाँ पर हमें लगता है, जैसे आप साउथ इंडिया ले लीजिए, अभी मेरा रहना साउथ इंडिया में, तो यहाँ पर जब ढोल वगैरह ज़्यादा बजते हैं तो जो लोकल क्राउड है उनको नहीं पसंद आता है, और जब उछाल करके आप वर्षिदान कर रहे तो लोगों को नहीं पसंद आता है, और उल्टा लोग उसको गलत दृष्टि से देखते हैं कि अच्छा ये लोग आकर के, एक तो नॉर्थ से आए, वो माइंडसेट रखते हैं, ठीक है, और आकर के हमको ऐसे भीख दे रहे हैं या उछाल करके फेंक रहे हैं,
शो ऑफ.
हाँ. तो वो जो देखने वाले की जो दृष्टि है वो धर्म के पूरा विपरीत चले जाती है, बहुत ही अगेंस्ट वो चले जाते हैं, और उनको ये पसंद नहीं है बिल्कुल. और आप साउथ में आइए तो साउथ में अन्न का प्रचलन ज़्यादा नहीं, चावल का प्रचलन ज़्यादा है. और जब साउथ में चावल को इतना ज़्यादा बढ़ाया जाता है तो उसको भी वो एक अलग दृष्टि से देखते हैं. एक समय था जब अन्न भंडार बहुत ज़बरदस्त तरीके से भरे हुए थे, आज उस लेवल की व्यवस्था नहीं है. लोग राशन ऑफिस में जाकर चावल ग्रहण करते, चावल लेते हैं वहाँ से, और वो जब देखते हैं कि ये जैन लोग तो ऐसे ऐसे चावल फेंक रहे हैं, तो हमारे खाने की चीज़ है, तो उनको थोड़ा वो नहीं जमता है. और फिर कई बार ऐसा होता है कि बाढ़ की सिचुएशन है, पानी की कमी है, लोग ऑलरेडी बहुत तकलीफ़ में है, और उस समय में बाजू से एक वरघोड़ा निकले जो ज़बरदस्त म्यूज़िक और ढोल नगाड़ों के साथ, तो उनको पसंद नहीं आता है. और एक्चुअल धर्म प्रभावना किस में, मैं ये नहीं कह रहा हूँ कि ये तरीका रॉन्ग है, लेकिन किस क्षेत्र के लिए कौन सा तरीका अप्लाई करना, उसकी ओपननेस शायद आज हम में नहीं है, लेकिन टाइम के साथ जो नेक्स्ट जनरेशन है वो इसकी ओपननेस रखता है, वो उसको स्वीकारता भी है.
yes.
मैंने कई बार ऐसा सोचा है कि एक R&D टीम शासन में होनी चाहिए. आज हर कंपनी में, ऋषि भाई आपने भी कोई कंपनी में काम किया है, उसकी तो हम डिटेल लेंगे आपकी सैलरी को लेकर, उसकी तो बहुत बड़ी चर्चा करनी है, लेकिन एक R&D टीम जो है वो लगभग हर कंपनी में होती है. वर्किंग स्टाफ है, उनके सामने वो R&D टीम रियलिटी रखती है कि ये रियलिटी है, कहाँ पे किस एरिया में किसकी रिक्वायरमेंट कितनी ज़्यादा है, उसकी R&D टीम एक शासन में होनी चाहिए, और जो सही आंकलन करे कि जिस क्षेत्र में जो चीज़ हो रही है उस क्षेत्र में उससे फ़ायदा हो रहा है कि नुकसान हो रहा है.
Exactly.
ऐसा लगता है.
And I think there's one more thing that especially for youth, that we can take from American culture, or especially what I was given when I was growing up. When we grow up, when we're going through school, even when we get into college, we're constantly asked, what is your 5-year goal? What is your 10-year goal? What is your 20-year goal? At the end of your life, what is it that you want to have achieved? And it is not just, I want to make so much money, I want to have a house. They really ask you to go, deep into, your passions. What is it that you are passionate about? What is the things that you, really feel that you want to, you'll give you happiness? We can, from a religious perspective, does that give happiness, real happiness or not? That's secondary. But I still, I am always constantly thinking that, okay, what is it that I want in life, right? And so we even choose our careers from that perspective. It is not just, okay, जैसे हमारा, in our family or even in Indian culture, it's almost, very standard. Okay, when you grow up, you either be, a CA, doctor, engineer, maybe a lawyer. And so things like, and that's it, right? You have to choose from these 5-6 options. You don't really have that space to do more. Where in the US, you choose your career based on your passion, right? And the passion, if it's, I want to help people, then you become a doctor, right? Or if it's something else. So when I was growing up, actually, I was always saying, I want to, be a zookeeper. वो जो zoo होता है ना, so I wanted to help the animals in there. And so starting, when I first started, I moved into that kind of direction, like helping animals and, doing those things. Okay, then I became a software engineer. As my, things change, that's okay. But I was given that space, even allowed. If somebody was to say that, maybe I feel like in India they might get ridiculed, right? Okay, what is this? Like that's, don't even think about that. I think, and I've seen, and I come to India when I speak with other youth, I see there is this lack of aim, lack of a long-term goal, vision for their life, right? It doesn't have to be sadhu jivan sayam, that is, very separate, completely, secondary. But you should at least have some goal, an overarching goal, a big goal in your life, that at least, when you are, on your last breaths, right, you at least feel that you have achieved something. And I think, and I don't think it goes against dharma also. I think because to achieve those things, you have to develop a lot of virtues, a lot of jo hum gun kehte hain. I mean, to get anywhere in life, you have to develop. And so that development of virtues itself is dharma, right? So I think if people can, you have to build that culture of think long term. What is it that you want to be, right? Not what you want to have, right? Not who you want to have, right? But who do you want to be? And I think that really gives aim, perspective in life, right? So nowadays, when people are, even in India, we see so much depression and suicides also on the rise. It's because people don't have, they're doing things because their parents told them. They're doing things because they think that's what society expects from them. Not anything based on what they want, what they like. Again, we already talked about it. There has to be some guidance. There has to be, something to prevent them from going on a very bad track. But regardless of those things, there should that their lane should be much wider. And I don't think it's even our elders also have to understand, but the kids themselves also, the youth, I think, really need to understand that you have to have a goal. You cannot just exist. Then it's just, you're existing. One thing that I experience is, so people, many times, I used to question this, right? I see like people who used to have very lavish lifestyles and very, even into the, very depocorous lifestyles, right? And then they're taking Diksha, right? People who were so much, we see all these videos, right? They were living such lavish, or they were, so much into even wrong path and things, all such things. And now they're taking Diksha. And so we always wonder, right, that how can they, how can that even happen, right? And then they take Diksha, and even in Diksha, they are, reaching such great heights, in tapasya, right, in austerities, or in studying law, all these things. They also, they stand out from others as well. And so I always used to question that, why is that, happening, right? How can somebody do a complete 180 like that? And what I realized, I think, is that how even in we also say na kamme sura dhamme sura, right? So, but why is that true, right? Those people who are very forward in their life also become very forward in Sanyam. And I think the differentiation factor is passion. While they were on the wrong path, they were still passionate, right? All they did was transform that passion, or the direction of that passion, the focus of their passion, now became something else, right? But that passion is still there. Right? And so it's passionate people that really move forward in life, right? Who really achieve things in whichever, line that they take.
तो सीखने जैसा ये है कि जीवन में गोल होना चाहिए. There must be at least one goal in life. So, and to analyze your life, that are you moving in the right direction? मतलब जिस तरफ गोल है, उस तरफ आप बढ़ रहे हो या नहीं, तो वो एक एनालिसिस भी मिल जाएगा. गोल होगा तो एनालिसिस होगा.
एग्जैक्टली.
और फिर वो पर्पस आएगा कि हम आगे बढ़ रहे हैं कि नहीं. जैसे धर्मों में हम प्रणिधान बोलते हैं कि मंदिर भी जा रहे हो तो प्रणिधान करो कि किसके लिए जा रहे हो, तब वो फल मिलेगा. नहीं तो खाली रोबोट के जैसे अगर हम जाकर आए तो कोई अर्थ ही नहीं है. अच्छा, मुझे ये पूछना था, आप अमेरिका में लगभग 28 साल रहे हैं और 2-2.5 साल, और अब फिर मुमुक्षु के अवस्था में आप आना जाना आपका लगा रहा है. तो मुझे ये पूछना था कि आप वो लाइफस्टाइल आपने जी है, अब ये लाइफस्टाइल, एक वो लाइफस्टाइल जिसको हम इंडिपेंडेंट, है ना, एक आपने कहा कि एक्सप्लोर करने के लिए मिलता है वगैरह वगैरह, और यहाँ पर तो गुरु ने आज्ञा दी तो उठना है, गुरु ने आज्ञा की तो बैठना है, गुरु ने आज्ञा की तो स्वाध्याय करना है. अब एक तरफ इतना इंडिपेंडेंस की आपके एक मोबाइल के क्लिक पर आप फूड का ऑर्डर कर सकते हो, और अब आपको गोचरी के लिए एक एक घर पे जाना पड़ेगा और आकर के फिर गुरु को दिखानी पड़ेगी आपकी गोचरी की, साहब आज ये गोचरी है, और वापरना भी गुरु की आज्ञा से. यानी कि टोटली ऑपोजिट. इसके लिए आप कैसे तैयार हुए?
So I think it's actually a very simple equation. I had all those freedoms, independence, everything in the US, right? I didn't have to answer to anyone. Even if I was living at home, technically I'm over 18. So anything I do, there is no legal thing. I can do anything in that. Even my parents really don't have a say in my life in that way also, right? But while living that life, I still wasn't experiencing happiness, right? Or the satisfaction of life I wasn't having, right? And here, now I'm, at least as a Mumukshu, I'm already, still in Agna of Guru, still having, to some degree, same kind of lifestyle, but I'm still experiencing satisfaction, happiness, something that's long lasting. So if I was, even with all those things, I was not getting that satisfaction, and here I'm getting this satisfaction. So what does it matter whether it's opposite or anything, right? I am getting what I wanted, right?
तो आपके कहने का अर्थ है कि आपको उस इंडिपेंडेंस में इतनी खुशी नहीं मिल रही थी. You were not experiencing happiness in that lifestyle where you had complete independence. And right now, where you are in Agnya of Guru, you are experiencing extreme happiness.
Exactly.
Reason?
Expectations. So I'll give one kind of life experience. One of the biggest experiences that triggered actually me to even come, and even explore this life. So I was living alone. I was working. I had worked maybe for one year or so. I was living about 5 hours from home, so I was not at home. I had my own flat and had my own car and everything, And every weekend I would, drive to, one city or another, or I would fly to a different city, visit my friends, do all these things, right? It was fun, complete fun. And then about 9 months, 10 months into, this adventure, this adventurous life, I got into a car accident. Somebody hit me from behind. Right? I was uninjured. The car was damaged a little bit, but not so that it couldn't drive. It was, minimal damage. And nothing else really was disturbed. But now I have to go home. I have to talk to the insurance. Insurance in I don't know about India, but in the US, it's also a headache to even deal with the insurance also. So one whole month they ask for this picture, this proof, that proof, all those things. Technically, okay, maybe half an hour, 1 hour of my day now is behind this, right? I have to get my car fixed. Maybe 3-4 days I cannot drive to work, whatever it is. And the large picture of things, nothing was, really big. It was not a big incident, right? Had I gotten injured or something like that, maybe that
कोई damage नहीं हुआ.
But it was a break, or it was a disturbance in my lifestyle, what I was expecting, that my life should go like this. It was a disturbance. And that disturbance, I realized, caused so much disturbance in my mind, right? In my day-to-day, life, that I really got, afraid that this was a small thing. Now, what would happen if a bigger disturbance came, right? Then what would happen? Because I still have all these expectations from these things should not happen, right? We always think that we want this and we don't want this. And if something or the other in those two things goes wrong, right? We end up, in some sort of mental breakdown or something like that. And I had seen that my Guruji, other sadhus and sadhus and people who have maybe, attained that spiritual level, they have, because they don't have those expectations. As a Mumukshu or as a, Newton Diksha, as I take Diksha, I'll have zero expectation, because it's whatever my Guru wants is what I want. So I have nothing. I like this, I don't like this, doesn't matter, right? And that lack of expectation means that if anything changes, it doesn't matter, because it is not it's not changing anything in my mental state. And so I can be just as peaceful as I was.
तो अभी अगर मैं बात करूँ रेस्पेक्ट की, तो एक आपने कहा कि आपकी जो सैलरी थी, हमें ये जानकारी मिली 1,20,00,000 की सैलरी, और अब 1 रुपया भी आपके पास नहीं, वो पैसे रखने के लिए जेब भी नहीं. तो एक तरह से मैं ऐसा कह सकता हूँ कि जिस बेसिस पर व्यक्ति को जज किया जाता है उस पर तो आप खरे उतरे, आपने सक्सेस पाया लाइफ में, लेकिन अब जो आप लाइफ चुन रहे हो वहाँ पर 1 भी रुपया आप पास में रखोगे नहीं. तो ये दोनों कंप्लीट ऑपोजिट लाइफस्टाइल जब आपको जानने को मिली कि अच्छा मतलब ये भी एक लाइफस्टाइल है, तो उसको अडॉप्ट करने का सोचा भी कैसे आपने?
It was very simple. I saw my Guruji's life and I saw my life, and I realized that what he has is far greater than what I have. Because and I think to some degree we all experience this, is that even the real wealth, in life is not money, right? But you can call it character, you call it virtues, right? It's the real it's virtues that really make a person who they are, right? Whether we call it, the virtue of simplicity, of equanimity, right? Samta we say it, of maitri bhav, friendship, all those things. It's those virtues that really make a life worth living. And so doesn't matter if 100 people, say, praise me because I, make such a large, income, right? Their praises are also empty, right? But if one person can see my virtue and be impressed and work towards, cultivating that same virtue in them, that I think is invaluable.
लगभग किस एज पर आपका ये ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन हुआ?
I met my Guruji when I was about 18, 19. I was just finished my first year of college. But transformation, I think, happened right at that incident of the accident, right? So it was about in 2000, let's say 17 around, so about 7-8 years ago.
कई इंडियंस ऐसे हैं जो दे वांट टू मूव अमेरिका अमेरिका, वेदर इट इज़ फॉर स्टडीज़ या फिर कि भाई चलो सेटल हो जाते वहाँ पर शांति है, जैसा आपने कहा कि कामनेस है. तो मुझे ये पूछना है कि आपका अनुभव उनके लिए क्या काम आ सकता है? आप हमें इसके बारे में क्या कुछ जानकारियाँ दे सकते हैं? उनके लिए क्या रेड फ्लैग्स है? इन सब चीज़ों से आपको दूरी बनाकर रखनी है, ऐसी कुछ चीज़ें हैं क्या? तो आप बता सकते हो तो.
So that is actually the work that I've been doing for the last 3-4 years through a Jain Alert, actually, as well in the US. And so one of the biggest things that we also push, see, we never force or we never convince somebody to move to the US for work or for studies or anything. If you are coming, then the advice that we like to give is you try to stay where there are other people of your community, other Jains, maybe if you're Gujarati, then Gujaratis, or whatever, people who share the same values as you, the same principles as you, same lifestyle as you. Don't, even if you think I'm getting a better opportunity somewhere, but now there's no one else, right? You might think in the short term, okay, you're getting that benefit because now you're, it's a better school or whatever. But you'll be lonely, right? You will lose those values, right? And many people, have lost those values, and for them to get them back, they realize, okay, I lost these, and it's very hard because you get so much, fall into that groove or into that lifestyle so, quickly that it's very hard to leave again. So let's say you're getting a better job, maybe $10,000, $20,000 more, but it's completely away in the remote area. Don't go there. Stay, you will, as you grow up, you will realize the real value is in that community that you have, right? In those is in those values that you have, and it's in those values that you can develop by staying with the people who share those values with you, right? So if you have to come, then don't lose those things.
आपकी सैलरी एग्जैक्टली कितनी थी जब अभी आपने जॉब छोड़ी है? छोड़ दी आपने जॉब?
छोड़ दी.
क्या सैलरी थी लास्ट में?
So it was about 10 lakh rupees if I was in Indian, 10 lakh rupees per month.
Per month. तो इस लाइफस्टाइल को तो लोग एक्सट्रीम सक्सेसफुल मानते हैं. एट प्रेजेंट पैसों के पीछे हमारी जो भागदौड़ है वो सबसे हाईएस्ट प्रायोरिटी पर हो गई है, और आप वो अचीव करके उससे अब आप दूर भाग रहे हो. तो ये क्यों है? क्योंकि देखिए, जो ऐसा एक तबका है जो ऐसा सोचता है कि मुझे इस लाइन पर टच करना है, ठीक है ना, इस लाइन को टच करना है, ये सैलरी को मुझे टच करना है, इतनी इनकम को मुझे एक बार अचीव करना है, और उधर पहुंचने के बाद फिर पता चलता है कि बॉस ये तो कुछ भी नहीं है, इसमें तो खुशी नहीं है. ऐसा क्यों?
हाँ. So again, I think this is, we always say money cannot buy happiness. That's a very, for those who maybe have nothing, then you need to come to some, financial stable point. That is one thing. Once you are there, then extra money, in most cases, just brings actually more misery, right? More tension, more stress. Because now you're also working to protect that money. Now you have to think, how do you get, your greed increases. So now you want to invest, but now you invest, and now, okay, now it's Biden changes to Trump, and now you don't know what will happen. Everything goes up and down. Again, you're stressed. So money and all the things that are related to that money, right? To get more money, you have to now get a better paying, a better job, or you have to get promoted. If you are, I honestly, I loved being kind of what we call individual contributor. So I don't have anybody below me. I'm not responsible for anything other than my own work, right? Versus my manager, okay, he's making maybe twice as much as money as me, but now he has to deal with 10 of us, all of our things, his own work, right? And so actually it's so much more stressful, right? And he many times had to, sacrifice his own family life, right? Just so he could, finish his work, right? And is that really worth it? Right? And and so I don't know if that, having more money or the things you have to do to get more money at certain point, it's going to cause even more, stress in your life than peace.
इनकी उम्र भले 30 साल है, लेकिन काफ़ी कुछ अनुभव आपने ले लिया ऋषि भाई लाइफ से. मैं एक सीधा क्वेश्चन पूछता हूँ, अमेरिकन लाइफस्टाइल और इंडियन लाइफस्टाइल, विच वन इज गुड अकॉर्डिंग टू यू?
I don't think I'll answer that question straight any time. I think, like we've mentioned, both have very, very good points, and both have negative points as well. And I think my only suggestion is, personally, is I like to take the best of everything, right? So even in India or in the US, right, I had my American lifestyle, but I still tried to keep that community connection, that family connection, social connection, because those are things that are very, very powerful from Indian culture, and I think people are realizing that.
अच्छा, बीच में आपने एक बात कही थी कि वहाँ पर अपनी कम्युनिटी के बीच में हम रहे तो ज़्यादा अच्छे तरीके से हम ग्रो हो सकते हैं, सेफ एनवायरनमेंट भी मिल जाता है, और हमारे जो गुण हैं, हमारे जो संस्कार है, फैमिली वैल्यूज़ है, वो बने रहते हैं. उस संबंध में मुझे ऐसा पूछना है कि, और एक और क्वेश्चन ये आएगा कि आपने कहा कि अमेरिका अभी एक कदम पीछे ले रहा है और वो क्वेश्चन कर रहा है कि हम जिस लाइफस्टाइल को हम जी रहे हैं, क्या वो सस्टेनेबल है या नहीं, ये क्वेश्चन मार्क है. तो ये दोनों को अगर मैं कनेक्ट करके आपको पूछूं, क्वेश्चन ये है कि कहीं ना कहीं अमेरिकन्स अभी स्पिरिचुअलिटी की खोज में, ऐसा मुझे लगा, तो हम अमेरिका वालों तक जैन धर्म को कैसे पहुंचा सकते हैं, और वहाँ रह रहे जैनों को हम कैसे कनेक्ट कर सकते हैं शासन प्रभावना के एंगल से, और कैसे हमारा धर्म हम उन तक पहुंचा सकते हैं ताकि उनको पता चले कि जिस खोज में वो निकल रहे हैं वो ऑलरेडी एग्जिस्ट करता है.
100%. So I'll give a small story, actually. So I met one girl when I was in Australia, 15, 16, young teen. And then I recently found out that she had come to India to do Ubdan. And so I went to visit her to see, I was also, I myself have done it, but, to see even more youth from out of India. She was also born and brought up in Australia. To see them doing Ubdan also, I was very happy. And so I wanted to see how she was doing, and so I visited. And I talked to her, and in a way it was good that I did that, because she was this close to leaving. And so I asked, I tried to go deeper as to what happened. And so I think there's two things, right? Because the main reason is what you're asking was she was not feeling that connection. And so there was two reasons for it. I think number one was that even today in India, still we have that kind of from our dharmic perspective, right, and our elders and all those, is we have this kind of we say that people in America or American culture, Western culture is this and this, and we always talk negative about it. We even say okay, you cannot do dharma outside of there. So we always tend to bring it down, and so the people who are living there, living that thing, it feels very negative, and so they are in a way they get hurt. They get offended. That this is what we have. It's many of us, like, we grew up there, we born, we had no choice to go there, and now you're saying whatever we have is not good, that it's this bad, it's this and that, right? But it's not our choice. This is where we grew up, this is what we lived, right? And so if you're all only talking about the negatives, right, that is always, you're going to push people away. And that's number one. And the second thing that she mentioned to me, right, and she said this directly, she said that all the people who I'm seeing doing Ubdan, it seems like they're doing Ubdan just to say that they did Ubdan. Right, just to to check a box. All right, in life I've done, like we said, not a real goal. It is like this checkbox kind of goal, right? Okay, did done.
Log kar rahe. People are doing it,
people
so
are doing
I have
it.
to.
That it's something you have to do in life. Just like getting married and having a job, that you have to do it. So you have to do it. Nothing, nothing else. Whereas she was expecting that, I'll get to learn something. I'll explore Jainism more, right? I'll get to sit with Maharishi and get to learn kind of what is actual Jainism about. What am I supposed to gain from Ubdan? She was not finding it, right? And so I think if we want to really reach out, to Jains America, in America or out of India, to Jains, even youth nowadays, even in places that are becoming more like America, even India, and non-Jains everywhere. right? I think we really have to focus on not bringing down maybe their culture, but seeing again what parts of their culture we can, incorporate, adapt, show them that no, we are, Jainism has always been about, adaptability, right? And to, what we call this vivek again, right? Or changing based on the times and, the context. And also, giving them the real actual essence of Jainism, spreading that, right? Forget about, sects or specific rituals and this and that, but we really need to, what are the core principles and how can those core principles really, really affect you and change you daily, on a daily basis. I have one friend who gives guest lectures at a university, University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign. There's a Jainism class. All the students are mostly non-Jain. Yeah, they're Americans or whatever. Even the
अमेरिका में जैनिज्म पढ़ाया जाता है?
And there's about 22 universities that have Jainism courses. A whole Jainism, kind of faculty who teach about Jainism. But again, many of them are, the teachers themselves are not Jain, professors also. And again, a lot of the students are mostly non-Jain. And so what he realized, that what really resonated with these students was he would give them scenarios, when it comes to relationships, when it comes to your job, when it comes to family, when it comes to all these, how Jainism, right? What are the principles of Jainism in those even small situations in a daily life that we encounter? How it can give us a different path, a better path. And his experience with these is that these students loved it. They said, we never have thought of now forget Jainism, we've not thought of life in this way at all. For them, it was something completely unexpected. They would never have found, they said, these kinds of answers anywhere. And so I think the more we can push, more we can show this. Personally, I think I have a dream that when, any problem that the world faces, right, when the UN meets, right, there should be a Jain representative, right? They should say, let's see what Jainism has to say about so-and-so. When it comes to ecological climate crisis, what does Jainism have to say about it? When it comes, Ukraine, Russia, Israel, Hamas, all these different wars, how can Jainism bring about, a longer lasting peace? Right? And I think we need to really, that's the message we need to spread.
ऋषि भाई, अभी रिसेंटली 3-4-5 ऐसे केसेस हमने देखे हैं जहाँ पर व्यक्ति ने पढ़ाई अमेरिका में की है और फिर दीक्षा लेकर वो जीवन में आगे बढ़े। तो ऐसा क्यों हो रहा है? क्या ये कोई नया ट्रेंड सेट हो रहा है कि अमेरिका से व्यक्ति पढ़ाई करके आ करके फिर दीक्षा ले रहा है? कोई नया ट्रेंड?
I hope it's a new trend. I think it's very good. It should be a trend. And I will say not just US. I think in the next 10 years, expect Australia, UK, South Africa, Canada. Expect from everywhere. And let them come. And I think the reason that this is happening is, again, one, lifestyle people are, again, they're coming to realize. That is one thing. But second is now we are in the age of, fast communication, media, social media also, right? Where even sadhu bhagwans and, other, Jain scholars are able to spread the message also much farther. People out of India can stay connected to India also much easier, right? When you're here in the 60s or 70s, when you moved to the US, you could only call, and that also then once a week, and maybe not even that. So you have zero connection with any sadhu bhagwans, with anything religious outside of what's happening in your own community. You don't know anything. Now, right, you're connected with all the sanghs, in the US, in India, with sadhu bhagwan, right? And so it's so much easier, right? So now it doesn't feel that, okay, I'm living foreign, right? I can come every year, and spend time with, sadhu bhagwans in India. And there are many kids that I, from the US and other countries who are doing that now, right? 20 years ago, 30 years ago, that was unimaginable because you didn't even have any way of contacting or figuring out that this is even an option. But now because of social media and all these things, people know, oh, this is something that we can do, right? Now as they see more people taking Diksha also, right? I would hope that more youth outside of India, right, realize, no, this is even something that I can do, right? It's not because only for those who live in India or those, who will have that kind of lifestyle. It's for anyone.
आप उनके लिए क्या मैसेज देना चाहेंगे जो अमेरिका में रह रहे हैं, जो शायद आपका ये इंटरव्यू देखेंगे? शायद ऐसा मैं अज्यूम कर रहा हूँ कि एक कंट्री से दूसरी कंट्री आना, मान लीजिए 1 महीने के लिए वेकेशन है, तो ये कितना इजी है प्रोसेस क्योंकि कहीं ना कहीं ऐसा एक रहता है माइंडसेट कि मतलब अमेरिका छोड़ करके इंडिया आना और गुरु भगवंत के साथ रहना। आप जैन अलर्ट ग्रुप के साथ आप जुड़े हुए हैं, उसके बारे में भी जानकारी लेंगे, लेकिन फिलहाल ऐसे अमेरिकन्स को आप क्या मैसेज देना चाहेंगे? इज़ इट वेरी इजी कि यहाँ पर गुरु भगवंत टाइम देते हैं, क्या है कैसा है, आपने क्या अनुभव किया?
100%. I think now, because Guru Bhagwan has also realized that this is, people are taking an interest also from out of India. They're also becoming more open, right? And much more willing to even to speak and give time to such people, because they realize that, okay, I'm only coming for 1 month, right? So what they can give to somebody else over 4 months, maybe during Chaturmas, the monsoon season, they have only 1 month to give to this person, right? And so I have seen many cases, and I think it's going to continue to grow, that yes, you come, we will even make things easier for you. Okay, you cannot handle the climate or something. Now you can find, proper rooms and, everything anywhere. Now everything is now becoming in that way modern, right? And so even from a physical perspective, it's not as hard, right? So my biggest request to all youth, right, is anytime you have some time, spend some time with Sadhu Bhagwant, right? Or Sadhvi Bhagwant, right? Spend 10 days, 5 days, whatever you can spare. Just see their life. See how do they live, right? Spend some time with them. Do vihar with them. Spend the whole day, not just a few hours, but spend an entire day with them. See how do they interact with each other. Even if you don't take Diksha, I think even 1 or 2 days of just viewing, of just observing them will change your entire life perspective.
अच्छा ऋषि भाई, एक मैं ओपनली कहूँगा कि अमेरिकन्स के लिए ना, या अमेरिका जो जाता है उसके लिए हमने एक ऐसा थॉट प्रोसेस बन चुका है या ऐसी मानसिकता बनी हुई है कि हमने ऐसा ही सुना है, ये जाएगा पढ़ाई के लिए और फिर उधर ही शादी करके उधर ही सेटल हो जाएगा, फिर से कभी आएगा ही नहीं। तो ऐसा क्यों होता है? फर्स्ट क्वेश्चन ये। और दूसरा क्वेश्चन ये कि ऐसा सुना है कि वहाँ पर तो फैमिली के प्रति कोई वैल्यूज़ या फैमिली के प्रति कोई प्रेम रहता ही नहीं है, वो तो पैसों के लिए माँ बाप को भी छोड़ देते हैं, किसी से भी शादी कर लेते हैं, कैसा भी कुछ भी कैरेक्टर ये वो एट्सेट्रा एट्सेट्रा। ये कितना सही है? और यहाँ से जाने वाले सेटल क्यों हो जाते हैं वहाँ पर, मतलब फिर से इंडिया क्यों नहीं आते? इसके पीछे का कारण क्या है? दोनों क्वेश्चन।
हाँ, सो आई थिंक अगेन इट्स ऑल अबाउट कम्युनिटी. You, wherever you live, right, you will end up taking on the culture and the principles for the most part of wherever you are living. And so when they go to the US, right, now all they see is this individualistic kind of lifestyle and this thought process. And so it's very easy, right, then for them to kind of take on that same, principle in their own life. And so it happens. It is, I cannot give a proper statistic, but it is quite common. We hear about it a lot, which is why, right, like we mentioned, right, Jain Alert Group, we were founded in the US a few years ago for the sole purpose, right, was Ratan Sundar Maharaj Sahib had also the same question, that he had heard the same things, and so he wanted to make sure that any of our youth who come to the US to study, right, to work, right, that they don't leave that community, they don't leave these values and these principles. Right, because now imagine I'm living, somewhere where I have other Jains or other, people like me, and they invite me for lunch, they invite me for dinner. But the first question they're gonna ask you, right, Mummy Papa kaise hai? Kya kar rahe? Kya kar? So you're constantly even thinking about your parents, right? So there's no chance for you to forget them because you have to think about them, right? Things like this, right? They do keep you connected to your roots, because without your roots, right, in anything you do, if your roots are not there, right, then a tree without roots is going to fall over. Same thing with your life.
जैन अलर्ट ग्रुप वहाँ पर कितना एक्टिव है? ऐसे देखने जाए तो अमेरिका में कितने जैन संघ है?
There is maybe 40 plus Jain संघ.
ओके, और सब एक दूसरे से कनेक्टेड है?
To some degree, yes.
और वहाँ पर ये जैन अलर्ट ग्रुप क्या काम करता है?
Our biggest work is this, connect Jain youth, right? Provide them a community, a sense of a family of oneness, right, anywhere they go. So if they go where there are other Jains, connect them with the other Jains. Let's say they are in somewhere, like I said, we shouldn't go, but if you end up in a place where there are no other Jains, then even at least, if not physically, then virtually, you still have a group of other Jains you can meet, right? And to even help them grow even professionally, but in a way that's aligned with our Jain values, right? And so they never lose They also realize the value of Jain principles when it comes to even their professional life, their social life, right? They should never lose touch of that.
बहुत अच्छा लगा जानकर कि जैन अलर्ट ग्रुप इस दिशा में बहुत अच्छी तरह से काम कर रहा है. हम यही चाहते हैं कि इसी तरह से पूरी दुनिया में जितने भी जैन लोग हैं वो एक दूसरे से कनेक्टेड रहे, कम्युनिटी में रहे, एक साथ रहे, मिलकर रहे, ताकि हम हमारे वैल्यूज से दूर न जाए. ऋषि भाई, आपकी बात करूँ तो आपकी बातों से ऐसा लगा कि आपने बहुत ही लैविश लाइफस्टाइल जी है, राइट?
श्योर.
आपका पास्ट और अब दीक्षा के बाद 2 जोड़ी कपड़े हैं. उपदी आपको उठाकर चलनी है, गोचरी के लिए आपको जाना पड़ेगा, गुरु कहेंगे तब बैठकर स्वाध्याय करना है 6-6, 7-7 घंटा. कई जगह पर ऐसा होता है कि गर्मी बहुत, उपाश्रय, पुराने उपाश्रय भी होते हैं जहाँ पर हवा नहीं भी आएगी. तो कहीं फिर आपकी ये जो पास्ट वाली लाइफ है उसको याद नहीं करेंगे? मतलब आपका पास्ट आपको ट्रबल नहीं करेगा कि यार ठीक है ना, वो अमेरिका वाली लाइफ अच्छी थी, कहाँ इधर आ गए? ऐसा नहीं होगा?
So I'll be very honest. I am sure that at some point during these things, I will definitely remember, that, or you know what, I have to walk 15 kilometers. I could have driven that in 2 minutes, right? I don't doubt that those such thoughts will come. I think it's pretty natural, especially in the starting. But at the same time, right, what I really, because I, even to this day, I have to still think about this, right, is that even though I had all that lavish lifestyle, I didn't have happiness, right? And so we for take example, Megha Kumar, we have the same story, right? He was the same thing where it was, he didn't have happy. He felt that he was unhappy because of all the dust that was, falling on him when he was sleeping, right? But then Maharishi Bhagwan reminded him that you have endured much more, right? And that even though he was an elephant, he was satisfied at the end because he saved a life, right? So I will remember that I was not satisfied actually, even though I had all those, lavish lifestyle, but I'm still satisfied today. I have nothing that I need.
सबसे पहले मुझे ये जानना है कि आप किस आर्ग्यूमेंट से अपने गुरु भगवंत के पास आए थे, क्योंकि गौतम स्वामी भी आर्ग्यू करने ही आए थे.
हाँ.
तो ऐसी क्या बात हुई थी?
So I was in college, and so because over time I was becoming, a little bit. Growing up, we did have Pachala and all those, so we were still connected in that way. But as I grew up and as again, I had moved out of the house when I went to college and all these things. So then I started, going more in towards that culture, right? And so then I started seeing things about Jainism. But I was, we say that, okay, we think non-violence, but then we do full puja. Isn't that violence? Right? So how can you do that? And when I had only learned about Jain sadhus, I had not really even met any. And so in my mind, I had this thing that people who are, suffering or struggling, or who come from maybe lower class families, they take Diksha because they have nothing better to do, right? And then what they do, because they are living that, they kind of convince other people that that's what they should do, right? So it is like, I am suffering, so you should also suffer. Like those kinds of, whether or not the soul exists. Yeah, even more kind of higher level of those questions, right? Or science says one thing, Jain Dharma says something completely different. There's no way to reconcile those things that I could see at the time. So I had a few of those questions like that. And so I went to the Upashe, and not my Guruji, but his younger Guru Bhai. He knew English. At that time, my Hindi Gujarati was not very strong. And so I spoke with him. And so he gave me answers very calmly. He never, got upset or got annoyed by my questioning and counter-questioning. So it went on for about 1 hour. And at the end, I said, that Sahib Ji, that if you want to believe all these things, that's on you. I have no interest. None of the logic makes sense to me. You do you, I'll do me. But at that time, Guruji, he saw all this. He doesn't understand any English actually. But he called me and he sat with me. And he realized that iske saath to dharma ki baat karni hi nahi hai, to wo chhod do. Then, so it was more personal. What are you doing? What are your goals? Sometimes I have seen with my own experience with my Guruji is that maybe what people spend 5-10 years, in becoming a therapist, right? As a profession or a psychiatrist, Guruji is, he is naturally a therapist. He knows how to, get somebody to open up, to talk, and to even help you think about solving your problems. And so he did the same thing for me. He just talked. He found out what are the things that I like, right? And he kind of guided me in that direction. I like to sing, and so he taught me a stavan. Again, no interest in me actually learning the dharmic side of the stavan, but I like to sing, so it's a stavan, right? And that brought me coming back because I want to learn. I want to learn. And so in that way, that was my first interactions with him. And then there was a time when I was in college again, the second year, I had life took a really bad turn, and I was very close to I was afraid that I might getting close to suicide also. And at that point, right, I sent a message, to Sadhu Bhagan. He was not guru, he was not my guruji at that point, but he was the only person that I felt, might be able to give me some closure or some help, because my parents were not able to help me. My friends, I was living with 5 other people in the same apartment, right? They were living next to me. My roommate can't help me. Right? That's the kind of situation I was in. And at that point, I had no one. I said, okay, the last ditch effort, let me talk to Guruji and see what he has to say. And his advice, I think, helped me through those 3-4 months so well that even to this day, I can guarantee you that any sort of situation comes again, right, I won't even bat an eye. That's how amazingly he was able to guide me through this in just a few months. And so, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of examples like that.
ऐसी कोई घटना मुमुक्षु पीरियड के दौरान आपकी कोई जो आप कभी भूल नहीं सकते?
Yes. And I've taken this before. Maybe some people might have seen that video, but it's a very, I think, most memorable experience for me during Vihar. Very early morning, we're leaving a small village from Rajasthan, and we're going somewhere else. Maybe 5 a.m., 5:30. We're walking. Very cold. Height of winter, January. And I remember clearly that we saw shooting stars also, right? Kharte tare jo kehte. And at that point, again, my Guruji never, sits, like lessons. He never gives lessons like that. But it seems whenever, he feels, right, and something comes, he just tells me, whatever small piece of advice or something. And so at that point, he just turns to me and said, Rishi, do you know what's the purpose of life? I said, no. I mean, you tell me. And he just said one line, and he said, like I'll say it in Hindi first, right? Ki गुणों की वृद्धि और दोषों का दमन, right? So basically, increase your virtues and decrease your faults. That was it. Again, he went silent. Again, for the rest of the Vihar, no other talk. But that line in my mind, I think, transformed me, because this is about 7-8 years ago, 9 years ago, maybe, I don't remember. But I found a new meaning to that one sentence constantly. That in every situation in my life, all I'm thinking is, where is this helping me increase my virtues? Where is it helping me or decrease my faults? Right? And if I see something opposite is happening, well, I don't want to make that decision. Right? And so it's such a simple thing, but it makes, the entire world of difference.
कहीं ना कहीं ये कैरेक्टर के साथ जुड़ गया कि मेरे कैरेक्टर में ये हेल्प कर रहा है तो मुझे अडॉप्ट करना है, और कैरेक्टर में ये नुकसान कर रहा है तो उसको निकाल देना है जीवन से.
यस
ऋषि भाई, इंडिपेंडेंस वर्सेस गुरु समर्पण, इन दोनों को मैं इसलिए अपोजिट रख रहा हूँ क्योंकि आप अमेरिका में जिए तो आपने जैसा कहा कि कम्प्लीटली आप इंडिपेंडेंट थे, तो हर चीज़ के लिए आपकी मर्जी चलती थी. वो लाइफ को छोड़कर अब आप एक ऐसी लाइफस्टाइल को अपनाने जा रहे हैं जहाँ पर कुछ भी स्टेबल नहीं है. कल क्या होगा पता नहीं, गोचरी मिलेगी नहीं मिलेगी पता नहीं, किस उपाश्रम में रुकेंगे पता नहीं, चातुर्मास कहाँ होगा वो भी पता नहीं, कुछ भी गारंटीड नहीं है. तो इसको आप कैसे फेस कर पाएंगे? इस चैलेंज को कैसे आपने अपनाया और कैसे आप भविष्य में फेस कर पाएंगे?
सो व्हाट यू आर सेइंग दैट इन अमेरिका आई वाज इंडिपेंडेंट, राइट? एंड द लाइफ आई विल बी लिविंग हियर, is dependent, because anything I need, I have to go out for it, right? Whatever I get is, I don't get to choose, right? And so that loss of choice, right, we think is a dependence. But honestly, I think it's switched. The life that you're living in America, in Sansar, even in general, right, is the life that's truly a life of dependence. And the life of a sadhu, right, is the true life of independence. Because in Sansar, right, in the worldly life, in the US, right, what happens if my car breaks down? What happens if my phone stops working? In India, what happens if the maid doesn't come to your house? Huh? What happens, when there's a flood during the monsoon season? Your entire life falls apart, right? I mean, we experience it all the time because you don't want those things to happen. And so when they do happen, you are completely unprepared for that. Whereas in Sadhu Jivan, after Diksha, yes, I have to go and get food, whatever I get. I have to, we might travel somewhere. We don't know what's going to be there, whether or not, the upash we go to will be clean, whether it'll be old or new, right? Whether the people will be welcoming or not also. But because we are prepared, we don't care actually, right? It is not, we can get a little bit of food, no food, too much food, right? The upashya can be very modern or can be very old because those things are so external, right? We are, as a sadhu, right? The entire focus is internal, right? So external things have zero effect. And so because we are completely unhindered, right, by those needs and wants from external things, we are completely free. There is no dependence. You can give us food, okay. You don't give us food, just as good. Right?
ऐसा सत्व आपको कहाँ से मिला? मतलब इस लाइफ को चूज करने के लिए जो एक हिम्मत चाहिए, जो एक करेज चाहिए, वो आपको कहाँ से मिला?
Guruji. I think I have no other place where I can say that I have find the source of my strength, because I was really struggling for the last 3-4 years. That what do I do? Take Diksha, get married. Originally, actually, I had decided to get married. I was on that path itself. I was, you might say I was very close. By this time today, I might have been married. Mm-hmm. To be honest, I was that close. But at somewhere from within, right, this call came. That, like again, I spoke about goals, right? What is the life's purpose? I had a call from, maybe you call it consciousness or something, that just said, your purpose is not achieved here. Your purpose is achieved somewhere, much greater, this path. But again, I had a lot of doubts. But all those doubts, I think, I gave them to my Guruji. He knows what doubts and issues I have. He'll handle them. So I have nothing to worry about, right? They'll all take care of themselves at the right time.
आज के समय में है ना ऋषि भाई, इतने सुलझे हुए व्यक्ति बहुत कम मिलते हैं, और इस उम्र में तो बहुत ही ज़्यादा कम. एट द एज ऑफ 30 इंडिया में मैंने ऐसा अनुभव किया है कि 18 साल तक पढ़ाई करते हैं, फिर सोचते हैं कि अच्छा अब मुझे क्या प्रोफेशन चूज़ करना चाहिए, और फिर उसमें आगे बढ़ते हैं. शादी हो गई और फिर उसके बाद वो रेस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी वाला वो जो एक धक्का लगता है कि नहीं अब, और फिर वो सेटल होते हैं लाइफ में, जिसको हम संसार कहते हैं. ठीक है, वो वाला सेटलिंग अलग हुआ संसारिक दृष्टि से. एक 30 साल की उम्र का व्यक्ति इतना सारा अनुभव लेकर इतना सुलझा हुआ व्यक्तित्व मैंने बहुत कम बार देखा है. मुझे ये पूछना है कि आज यूथ है ना बहुत ज़्यादा कंफ्यूज्ड है, स्पिरिचुअलिटी को भी लेकर बहुत ज़्यादा कंफ्यूज्ड है. कहीं भी जाके बैठ जाएगा और उसे लगेगा कि नहीं ये स्पिरिचुअलिटी है. तो मैं चाहता हूँ कि आप उस यूथ को एड्रेस करें, और आपके एंड से क्या सही एडवाइस उनके लिए हो सकती है उस यूथ के लिए. जैसा आपने कहा ना कि वो लाइफ एंड करने की भी सोच लेते हैं. मतलब मैं तो इसको बहुत अलग तरीके से देखता हूँ. इतनी कीमती लाइफ और आप एंड करने की भी सोच रहे हो, वो मेरे लिए तो बहुत बड़ा धक्का हो गया. सोचना भी वो कहीं ना कहीं आपने एक बार तो एंड कर ही दिया, ऐसा मतलब क्योंकि आपने मन से तो एक बार धक्का लगा ही दिया. तो ये सोच भी क्यों आती है, और जब ऐसा कुछ हो तब क्या करना चाहिए, उस यूथ को आप क्या कहेंगे? और दूसरी चीज़, आजकल मैं ऐसा कहूँगा कि हम जब 20s में थे या टीनेज वो वाला जो एज ग्रुप होता है जहाँ पर है ना खून बहुत गर्म होता है, उस टाइम में इतनी सुविधाएं नहीं थी. आज खराब निमित्त इतने हैं, सुविधाएं इतनी है, आप फ़ोन निकालो गंदगी आपके सामने है. तो उस यूथ को आप क्या कहेंगे, क्या एडवाइस देंगे?
So I think first, for actually all of both these questions, I think the first thing I will say to the youth is take a step back, pause, right? Now think, why are you alive? What do you think you have the potential to achieve in this life, right? Because if you think hard about it, if you think long about it, you'll realize that you can achieve a lot more, right, than you think, or that other people might tell you, right? Don't forget what other people say, forget what society says, but just look into yourself and see, right, what qualities do you already have, right? What are the passions that you have, right? And try to, and again, we talked about goal, purpose, right? Figure out what is that purpose, and what is it that, you want your life to mean. What is the meaning you want out of your life? And where actually, and everybody wants to be happy. That is a universal goal. That will not change for anyone. So then also reflect on your life even so far, right? You've lived 20 years of your life, 25 years of your life, 30 years of your life. Where is it that you've really been happy? And where did that happiness really come from? Did it actually come from something external? Did it come, from your phone, or, having a birthday party, or from taking that, trip that you really wanted? Or really did it come from the friendships that you had, right? From the satisfaction that you gained, right? From when you were able to give charity and you saw the smile on somebody's face, right? When you were able to feel at one with the world, right? People have those experiences when you travel in nature, right? Where did you find that real happiness? That happiness that doesn't really fade, that can't be changed, right? And you'll realize, right, that true happiness is going to come from these virtues itself. Like what my Guruji told me, one thing that I realized, and the reason he told me this was that if I want to be happy, I need to, instead of collecting things, I need to collect virtues. Right? Because imagine someone who can be happy in any situation. वो हम समता हम भाव कहते हैं, like equanimity, right? Equanimity is not emotionless. It's actually, I would say, it's this level of happiness which is still, right? It's not excitement, so it doesn't go up, and it's not even depression where it goes down. It's a positive which is constant. So imagine somebody like that, or somebody who always gets excited and down, up and down, right? Who's going to experience more net happiness in their life, right?
लोग तो उसको एडवेंचर बोलेंगे.
हाँ. So you think that someone who is in samta cannot have adventures? Sadhu Bhagwans, their whole life is samta bhav, right? And they have probably the biggest adventure. They have no idea what's happening, what's going to happen tomorrow, right? And the real adventure is, how can I face tomorrow and still be happy? That's the biggest adventure, right? And so anywhere you'll see it is these virtues that actually bring happiness. And so I would like every youth, right, to really reflect, sit down and take a break, stop scrolling, on your, Insta feed, or just, moving, thinking about the next trip that you're planning, or, or the next thing that you want to buy, or then, just stop. Take 1 day, 2 days, 10 days. Now really write down, what is it, because all these things 10 years down the line, you'll forget about them. Those things will come and go. But there's you are the constant, right? So you have to do something for yourself, for that constant which is you, right? And you have to think, what is those things? What are those things? Because that is not going to change. And so if everyone could do that, I think, we will not see these kinds of mental breakdowns, depression, anxiety, suicidal thoughts. Because at that point, you find, real value to your life. Right? Otherwise you're just running, and because you don't have time to think for yourself, you're listening to what other people are telling you, right? And so people tell you you have worth. People tell you you don't have worth. That's it. That's all I have to say.
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद आपका ऋषि भाई. अंत में मैं चाहूँगा आप ही सबको आपकी दीक्षा पर इनवाइट करें. पूरे महोत्सव की जानकारी आप खुद दे यूथ को.
प्रणाम. So my Diksha will be held in Shapur Manas Mandir Tirth, which is near Mumbai, Bhiwandi. It was actually made by my own Guru's Guru, Dada Gurudev Hemratan Suri Maharaj Sahib. So it's a very important place for me as well to be taking Diksha. It is on June 8th, with the festivities beginning June 6th. So June 6th to 8th, 3 days of the Diksha. I invite with open arms everyone to attend the Diksha, especially youth, especially those from outside of India, especially those who have never seen a Diksha before. The goal is to have programs and different events which are quite unique, something that maybe are not common in other dikshas, but something that you can take with you when you go home, something that will stay in your mind, for your life, and you can reflect on those things and build on those. That's the goal for the diksha. So everyone is please invited to attend. I hope to see you all there to bless me as well as to get blessings for yourself.
अंतिम प्रश्न, दीक्षा के बाद आपका गोल क्या?
Whatever my guru wants. I can say that, yes, from a place of ego, I have some goals, right? My goal personally is what my Gurudev was, Hemratan Suri Maharishi Sahib, what he was like, right? I want to be like him. But at the end of the day, it's my guru who decides what my capabilities are, if he thinks I'm, capable of doing even more, then why just stop there, right? Or if I'm capable of doing something different, so then why follow only this path? And so at the end of the day, I have no goal. If my guru says this is my goal, that's my goal.
खूब खूब धन्यवाद आपका ऋषि भाई. आपका दीक्षा जीवन बहुत ही अच्छे से व्यतीत हो, जैसा आपने सोचा है वो सारे थॉट्स यूथ के माइंड में भी जाए. आपने अपना कीमती समय निकाला और आपने दिल खोलकर सारी बातें कही है. खूब खूब धन्यवाद आपका ऋषि भाई. खूब खूब धन्यवाद. जय जिनशासन, जय महावीर.